What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another Dark Matter guide. With this guide, I'm going to be sharing how to get all of the different camos for all of the pistols in Black Ops 3. Let's get into it. Alright guys, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to point out that I've already covered the SMGs, the sniper rifles, and the shotguns for this series, so if you want to work on those as well, I will leave a link to the playlist down below. So let's get into the camos for the pistols. So first off, just like with most of the other guns, we have to complete 100 headshots with the pistol before we unlock the final 5 challenges that will allow us to get the gold camo. Now headshots with pistols can be a bit of a struggle at first, but once you start to get the hang of it, I find they actually come quite easy. One of the biggest tips I can give you for headshots that's quite obvious is use high caliber when you're going for headshots with the pistol. This attachment allows you to get headshots a whole lot easier, especially I find with the RK5. The RK5 was initially for me the absolute hardest gun to get headshots with. I was complaining about it at first, but that was before I unlocked high caliber for it. Once I unlocked high caliber, it actually became quite easy to get headshots with the proper playstyle that I'll discuss here in a second. So especially with the RK5, but it does apply to the other pistols as well, I would recommend just getting kills with them and not worrying about headshots until you unlock the high caliber attachment. If you don't have the high caliber attachment unlocked, you're going to have a hard time, most likely, with some of the pistols. The MR6 isn't really that bad, it doesn't really require high caliber, but it definitely helps. As for the actual playstyle that goes into getting headshots more effectively with pistols, is I like to essentially treat them almost like they're a shotgun. I don't typically go for headshots if they're at that mid to somewhat longer pistol range. I try to keep my gunfights as close as possible so that the head is a pretty big target to shoot at, and any flinch and stuff that happens won't be as big of a deal because you're right up close to your target. I found that once I started treating them like a shotgun, the headshots were just rolling in like crazy. I think I had like over 25 headshots with the MR6 one game on Exodus because I treated it as if it were a shotgun, and it was just so easy to get the headshots with it. So treat it like a shotgun, keep all your gunfights close quarters, or every gunfight you can possibly keep them close quarters. Aim high, but at the same time, a lot of the times in core game modes, you don't want to aim directly at the head to start with. You want to kind of try to walk your shot up into the head because you have to account for, first off, flinch if you end up getting shot, which usually happens, and also for recoil with the RK5 and the LCAR-9. The MR6 doesn't really have too much for vertical recoil, so I wouldn't really worry about compensating for recoil on that. But for the other ones, definitely have to compensate for recoil. And for all of them, you have to compensate a little bit for flinch. So I typically like to aim more around the upper chest to neck level and then walk my shot up into the head rather than starting aiming at the head and then potentially ending up way above their head and missing all my shots. Also, one thing I'll point out is hardcore can definitely make this a whole lot easier with a lot of these pistols. They're going to be a one-shot headshot out to a somewhat decent range as long as you have high caliber on them. And I believe the MR6 is actually a one-shot headshot at all ranges with high caliber equipped. So the MR6 is going to be very easy for hardcore because you just line up your headshot, pull the trigger, and there you go, you've got your headshot. The RK5 and the LCAR-9, you still have to play somewhat close with them, which you'll want to be doing anyways because you have lots of recoil. But if you keep them somewhat close and you're using high caliber, it'll be a one-shot headshot, and it'll make them a whole lot easier because you don't have to worry about that recoil and the flinch mechanic and everything like that. You just line up your shot and take it. One of the suggested game modes for this would be hardcore free-for-all, especially if you're really struggling. I did most of these in core game modes because I didn't really have too much of an issue just treating them like a shotgun and getting up close with high caliber. But I've found that if you play hardcore free-for-all, you can typically limit your engagements to a 1v1 engagement, and you just line up the headshot and take your shot, and I find the headshots come quite easy in that particular game mode for the pistols. A nice thing with hardcore as well is all of the guns seem to be more on a level playing field, like every gun is more like a one-shot kill, possibly two-shot kill. Whereas in core, there are a lot of guns that clearly outclass the pistols in most situations, as they should because the pistols are a secondary, not a primary gun. So with hardcore, you're really leveling that playing field out. So that's really all there is to it for headshots for the pistols. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you have high caliber on there and you do play around with it a bit to find exactly where you need to be aiming to compensate for that recoil and flinch, the headshots will come quite easy for you over time. Once you complete those 100 headshots, you unlock the final 5 challenges that you need before getting gold for that particular gun. And the first of these challenges is the Ardent challenge. This one requires you to get 10 long shot medals with the pistol. Now the nice thing about this challenge compared to the assault rifles and the sniper rifles is the distance required for long shots with pistols isn't really that crazy far. As you can see right here, I hand tested to find the exact long shot medal range. Anything beyond that range that I show there is going to count as a long shot medal. So as you can see, you don't have to be completely across any of the maps, you just have to keep yourself at a pretty decent distance for the pistols. If you're struggling with this, I highly recommend going and playing hardcore, because like I said earlier, it just kind of balances everything out and it makes it a whole lot easier to get these long shots. Because with the LCAR-9 and the RK-5, they do have that little bit of recoil and it can be a bit difficult to keep your shot on target and also win a gunfight against a primary gun at those ranges. The MR6 I find is very competitive at that range anyways in core game modes, so that one's really up to you. But if you really want to make it easy for yourself, just go into hardcore game modes. Now for the next challenge, I like to do this one at the same time as the challenge after that challenge. So the first one is the Burnt challenge. This one requires 50 kills with no attachments. And the next one is the Bliss challenge, which for the pistols requires you to get 50 kills with no perks equipped. So to save time, I find that you can just do these two challenges at the exact same time. So just run a class with only a pistol, and you still can load up on lethals and tacticals. There's nothing against that, it's just no perks, no attachments. So make sure you're using the Danger Close wildcard so you can have 2 lethals, and then also run 2 tacticals. By doing these at the same time, you now only have to get 50 kills total, rather than 50 kills for each of them if you were to run them individually. So I feel like it definitely saves a lot of time, and allows you to focus on the other challenges once you get these 50 kills done really quickly. Aside from that, for these challenges, there's really not too much I can give you for tips. If you are struggling to use the pistols effectively, again, I would recommend playing hardcore game modes just because it's more of a level playing field, and also perks and attachments aren't really as necessary, I find, in hardcore game modes because everything's so powerful anyways. Moving on to the next camo for the pistols, this is the Battle Camo, and it requires you to get 2 rapid kills 5 times. And this one I find just comes naturally in a lot of game modes, especially when you're already getting your 50 kills with no perks and no attachments. I find that you'll at least complete a few of these out of 5, and this is just one of those challenges I find you don't need to really actively think about. It just happens while you complete the other ones. Now, if you are for whatever reason struggling with this one, I'd recommend playing game modes like Hardcore Domination, where enemies tend to group up a little bit, and they'd be quite easy to kill. Or you could just play Core Domination, or Core Safeguard, or any game mode basically where enemies tend to group up together. Now the final camo of these 5 that you have to complete before getting gold camo is the Chameleon Camo, and this, just like with all the other weapon classes, requires you to get 5 kills without dying 5 times, with all kills coming from that pistol. So for this one, there's not a ton that I can give you as far as tips go. Obviously with pistols, you typically want to keep your gunfights up close, so try to navigate the map so that you keep your gunfights up close. A big thing I find is counting kills can be a little bit of a detriment to a lot of people. Like if you're like, okay, I have 3 kills, I only need 2 more to get this thing done. And that you're focusing more so on the number in your head rather than what's going on in game. Just play it smart, play it safe, and just constantly think, how am I going to get my next kill safely? I feel like that's a great mindset to have if you're struggling to get challenges like this completed. Also, just like with all the other classes, this does work if you use rejack and you're able to successfully rejack. So, I've explained it before, but I'll explain it again. If you were to get, let's just say, 3 kills, you're using rejack, and an enemy downs you, and then you were able to successfully rejack, you now only have to finish off the remaining 2 kills to get your 5 kills in one single life. Even though it counts as a death on the scoreboard still, it still carries through death for this particular challenge. So if you're really struggling, pop rejack on there, that might help you out. Again, hardcore game modes might be best for some people just because it is such a level playing field as far as the guns go. But it's not really required. I know for a lot of people, they'll have no problem completing this in core game modes as well. Because the nice thing about core game modes is it's harder to get kills, but it's also easier to stay alive. So if you get into a situation you don't like, you have a much better chance of escaping that situation and trying to attack from a different angle. So once you manage to complete all of those final 5 challenges, you'll get gold for that particular pistol. Once you get gold for all of the base pistols, you'll get diamond, and then once you get diamond camo for everything, you will get dark matter. Now, one thing I wanted to clear up here, I feel like this is an excellent opportunity to talk about this, is what happens with supply drop weapons. So we're looking at the Marshall 16 for the pistol category, or the MX Garand, or the melee weapons like the Fury Song and stuff. How do they impact your ability to get dark matter if you have them? Well, it's pretty simple. You do not need to get any camos for any of these guns, even if you have them earned, in order to get dark matter for everything else. So they are completely irrelevant to getting dark matter for all of the other guns, but if you already have dark matter for everything else and you now want to get dark matter for that new gun that you have, that supply drop gun, it isn't there by default. You have to actually complete the camo challenges for that specific supply drop gun in order to get dark matter for that gun. So that's going to wrap it up for today's dark matter guide for pistols. Please let me know in the comment section below which one of the weapon classes you'd like me to cover next. And keep in mind, I've already covered SMGs, sniper rifles, shotguns, and now pistols. I'm going to do a melee episode all on its own. I'm going to do LMGs, I've got to do launchers, and I also have to do assault rifles. So pick one of those and let me know what you want to see next. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.